the world leader in MMA. Experience it on FS1.
The American Southwest is heating up as winter turns to spring, just like the action in store for Fox UFC Fight Night, as a host of high-octane matchups are poised to light up the desert sky. And there is the 5th-ranked lightweight in the UFC, Dustin Poirier. The New Orleans native has a new contract and a new outlook with UFC Gold squarely in his sights. But he'll have to get through one of the toughest outs in the entire sport, Justin Gaethje. The All-American wrestler grew up here in the Grand Canyon State, and he's ready to put on a show in front of his home crowd. The FS1 UFC Fight Night weigh-in show starts now. And welcome inside the Gila River Arena in Glendale, Arizona. I am Karen Bryant alongside the welterweight champion, Tyron Woodley, former middleweight king, Michael Bisping, and one of the hardest working women in show business, Megan O'Leary. So, T-Wood, they have announced an interim title fight between Rafael dos Anjos and Colby Covington for UFC 225. Sir, the world wants to know, what are your thoughts on that?
Karen, I cannot wait for this main event. Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier are phenomenal fighters. It's going to be an all-out slugfest. I can't wait to watch it.
Tyron, get it. You don't want to talk about the interim title fight, but when they made an interim title, when I was the champion, I embraced it. What is the problem?
Is there a champion currently in the welterweight division?
There's one that doesn't fight very often, yes.
The one that fought 4 times in 12 months?
There's one that might fight right now, guys. Let's get to this. Michael, tomorrow's main event between Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje has it all. Championship repercussions, a hometown hero, and an all-action recipe, of course, for long as it lasts. Get us started on Dustin Poirier. What do we need to know about him?
Yeah, well, Dustin Poirier, every time you see this guy fight, he always brings it. Had some tremendous performances inside the octagon and beating some former champions. Holds a win over Max Holloway back in the day. His last outing, he beat former champion Anthony Pettis. He can get the job done everywhere. Very, very well-rounded and very, very aggressive.
Yeah, the excitement between both of these guys is palpable. You can tell that they're very interested in having an opponent that's similar to them, looking across the octagon from one another. They both come to fight, and they know they're getting that in their opponent tomorrow night.
And Dustin's already been in position to fight for a title at featherweight and lightweight. One fight bumped him down. Now he's trying to build his way back up. He's more consistent now.
Yeah, and this will be Justin's first fight after a defeat, so we will see how he bounces back. We're just about ready for the ceremonial weigh-ins. Our good friend John Anik is on the mic. Take it away, John.
What's going on, Glendale, Arizona? Great to be back in the desert. How about a hand for the Octagon girls, Vanessa Hansen, Chrissy Blair, one of the best matchmakers in the world, the handsome Mick Maynard is in the building as well. 14 fights coming your way tomorrow night. We begin with the UFC Fight Pass prelims. First up in the UFC Bantamweight division, Cool Hand Luke Sanders versus Patrick the Animal Williams. Welcome, Patrick Williams.
Well, Patrick the Animal Williams, he doesn't train at American Top Team. He is very strong for this weight. I watched him the other day cutting weight. He was only 3 pounds away from striking distance. Automatically looked super lean. He said his wrestling and his strength is some of his attributes. He has 6 first-round finishes, 4 of those by KO, 3 submissions, and not to mention
36, the official weight for Patrick Williams.
Arizona State's own collegiate wrestler, so he's in good company.
Please welcome Cool Hand Luke Sanders.
Cool Hand Luke walking in there, living up to the nickname, definitely looking very cool. The boyfriend of WWE superstar Becky Lynch. 6 first-round finishes, 7 wins by KO. He is taking his time. He is milking this moment, and rightly so. But come on, speed up. There's a lot of hungry, thirsty people backstage.
Well, they had some time to rehydrate, so...
Well, no, that's right. Sorry, pardon me.
135 for Luke Sanders.
Multiple-time BMX champion, which is pretty cool.
This guy's an adrenaline junkie, in other words.
Yes.
All right, next up also in the bantamweight division, Matthew Lopez versus Alejandro Turbo Perez.
Bantamweight Alejandro Turbo Perez makes his 8th UFC Octagon appearance tomorrow night. He's fighting out of Mexico, and he's a veteran of the Ultimate Fighter Latin America. He was actually on Cain Velasquez's team. He's got 9 wins by knockout and 5 by submission. That includes 3 rear naked chokes, 1 triangle, and 1 guillotine. He also has 10 first-round finishes, so this could be an early night of work.
Speaking of first-round finishes, Matthew Lopez also had 8 first-round finishes. Local ASU wrestler. He was found on Dana White looking for a fight. 5 KOs, 3 submissions, won 2 of his last 3. These guys don't get paid for overtime.
We saw Matt backstage before the weigh-in here, and he was super excited. You can tell he's really glad he's able to fight here in Arizona.
Moving on now to the UFC heavyweight division, Arjun Bhullar versus Adam VETTORI.
This is Poland's Adam VETTOREK's sophomore octagon outing. He's got a record of 9-1 and is currently on an 8-fight win streak. The only loss of his career actually came in his second pro fight, which happened to be against fellow UFC fighter Marcin Tybura. He's remained unbeaten ever since that loss. He's got 3 victories by knockout, 5 by submission, that includes 4 by armbar and 1 by rear naked choke. He's a big guy there.
Tall drink of water.
232, the official weight for Adam VETTORI. And his opponent, how about a hand for Arjun Bhullar.
And his opponent, Arjun Bhullar, will be also making his second walk to the octagon. He's an AKA fighter, but decided to do this camp at home in Vancouver. He brought guys in. He said he'll be back in the Bay Area around the time DC and Stipe is going to fight. Undefeated fighter. And let's not forget, he is an Olympic wrestler, and he said that Olympic wrestling helped him have the supreme confidence and mental toughness.
241 pounds, the official weight for Arjun Bhullar.
I think he's going to be the first person to wear a turban to the octagon
say,
as well.
Making history. I
didn't know Reebok made turbans though.
All right, moving on now to the welterweight division. Diego Lima versus Yushin Thunder OKAMI. First fighter to the scale, making the walk for his 46th professional fight, Yushin OKAMI.
You know, when you see Yushin OKAMI in person, you can't believe that this guy makes 185. He's absolutely gigantic. Of course, if you followed the UFC, you know who Yushin OKAMI is. Been around for a long, long time. Fought Anderson Silva for the title back in the day. Obviously didn't go his way, but long-time veteran of the sport. This guy's been around forever. 45 professional fights, I think, around that number. That's anyway.
Right. Yeah, his record's 34-11.
And his opponent, Diego Lima, he's also spent at welterweight and also middleweight. He loved the Tough Show, obviously, because he did Tough 19 and Tough 25. And was a finalist at both, so these guys are huge welterweights.
All right, next up in the UFC women's flyweight division, Shauna Danger Dobson versus Lauren Princess Tiger Mueller. First fighter now making her UFC debut. How about a hand for Lauren Mueller?
Lauren Mueller, just like John Anik said, makes her UFC debut tomorrow night. And her nickname, Princess Tiger, you gotta give her credit. That is unique and original. But she's an alumni of Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. She's undefeated. She's 4-0 at flyweight, and she trains out of Alliance MMA. Her main training partners for this fight were Kat Zingano and Angela Hill, so you know she's prepared. She trains with some of the best of the best.
All right, folks, well, you may remember Miss Dobson from The Ultimate Fighter 26. Now, her time there didn't go too well. She did lose to Roxanne Modafferi, who eventually made it into the finals, but the only professional loss she has is to the woman who is currently the champion, Nico Montano. She's very excited for her. They are actually quite good friends here, but she's also a 4th grade science teacher, so I think you better do your homework, folks, when you're in her class.
Yeah, Shayna Dobson was impressive on the show.
Yeah.
You got some great hands. Excellent boxing skills.
What a cool teacher to have.
Right?
All right, now to a featured bout for the UFC Fight Pass prelims in the lightweight division. Gilbert Dorino Burns versus Dan the Hitman Moret.
So Dan Moret making his UFC debut here. 6 first-round finishes, 7 wins by submission, using a variety of techniques, a very well-rounded on the floor. Won 6 of his last 7, of course making his UFC debut, as I said. Stepping on the scale. All right, okay.
Please welcome Gilbert.
That was interesting.
Well, Gilbert Burns is fresh off a second-round KO with Jason Sago. He's out of the Hard Knocks 365 count with Henry Hove. He missed it by half a pound, but came back and knocked it off in the 2 hours they gave him.
Yeah, the commission allowed him that additional 2 hours.
You can check out the next 4 prelim bouts on your local Fox affiliate tomorrow night, starting at 6 Eastern. Next up, top 15 middleweights, Krzysztof Jotko and Brad Tavares. They're going to weigh in. Megan, start us off with the surging Tavares.
Yeah, Brad Tavares, it's been almost 8 years since Brad Tavares made his UFC debut after appearing on The Ultimate Fighter Season 11. Now, the Hawaiian native fights out of Las Vegas, and we see him all the time at the UFC offices because he splits his training time between the UFC Performance Institute and Extreme Couture. He's currently riding a 3-fight win streak heading into this matchup tomorrow night.
So Polish Krzysztof Jotko was riding a 6-fight win streak in the UFC. Obviously he lost to former World Series of Fighting champion David Branch by split decision, then lost to Uriah Hall, but he was on a tear. He was doing really, really well. Very unorthodox, aggressive striking style, so he wants to get back into winning ways. He feels like he'll compete for a title one day, but he's got his hands full tomorrow night, that's for sure.
The official weight for Chris Jotko.
This is going to be a great fight with him and Brad Tavares.
And I know Brad Tavares is probably pretty bummed. Dana said UFC Hawaii's not happening, seeing as he is a native.
I think we're all very bummed.
Not yet, let's just say not yet.
Next up, 2 former world title challengers in the flyweight division. Wilson Hayes versus John Moraga. First fighter to the scale, repping Phoenix, Arizona, John Moraga.
Well, you can tell the crowd is excited he's fighting here, and you've got to imagine Arizona's Chicano John Moraga is looking to throw down here in his backyard. The crowd absolutely loves him. Momentum certainly on his side here. You know, in his last outing at UFC 216, he knocked out the very highly touted prospect Bibliotov in under 2 minutes. He's looking to make this one 3 in a row. He said, I know Wilson Hayes is a very tough opponent, though.
You know, we can talk about how Wilson Hayes is a BJJ black belt, 10 submissions, 7 different types of finishes, but he's fighting with a very, very heavy heart. He lost his loved one, lost his brother in January of this year, so he's going out there, he's going to fight with the pride of his family and go out there and try to secure the victory.
125 for Wilson Hayes.
This should be highly entertaining tomorrow night.
Yes.
Next up in the UFC welterweight division, the king of Kung Fu, Muslim SALIKHOV versus Ricky the Sniper Rainey. First fighter to the scale, making his UFC debut. How about a hand for Ricky Rainey?
Well, Ricky the Sniper Rainey makes his UFC debut tomorrow night, but he's won 4 of his last 5. His overall record is 13-4. He trains out of North Carolina, where we don't see a ton of UFC fighters coming out of it, but he certainly found the right formula there for him. He's got 7 wins by knockout, 1 by submission.
Ricky Rainey.
Interesting to note, guys, he was a debt collector for the bank for 4 years.
Yeah, people paid up.
Paid up right quick.
Well, they call him the king of Kung Fu. That's because he was the 5 times Wushu world champion. Wushu world champion, that's tricky to say. A lot of fights, this guy, a lot of experience, 199 kickboxing fights. So it's fair to say he's a little bit experienced with the feet and the kicks. 13-2 at MMA so far, so going really well since his transition to MMA.
For the king of Kung Fu.
But I just love saying that, the king of Kung Fu. That's a great nickname.
199, he should have got 1 more fight to make it even 200.
No, that's right, yeah.
Our featured prelims comes your way in the UFC's middleweight division. Tim the Barbarian BOETSCH versus Antonio Cara de Sapat Carlos Jr.
First to the stage, Antonio, we call him Shoeface Jr. He is full of smiles. He was cutting weight the other day. I was in there, nothing but smiles, so excited. I've never been that happy to cut 8 pounds, but he obviously was. He's so dangerous on the ground. Obviously, we know he's known for the rear naked choke. 8 submissions, 5 first-round finishes. He gets the job done, he gets it done quick.
Yeah, I had to kind of jump Shoeface backstage and just tell him hello. It's my favorite nickname. I always got to represent whenever I
Yeah, he was a great help.
Yeah, well, Tim Boetsch, 23rd fight in the UFC, and that's over 10 years, over a decade fighting in the UFC, which is incredible. The Barbarian always brings it. Very, very aggressive style. 13 wins by KO. He always does the same thing, just a plodding style, walks forward, looks to knock out his opponent. You gotta love the Barbarian.
Yeah, Shoeface is a stud. I use him to train for Damian Maia, man.
Nice.
The dude's amazing.
Nice.
All right, that brings us to the main card for Fox UFC Fight Night. First up in the UFC Women's Strawweight division, the karate hottie Michelle Waterson versus Courtney Cast Iron Casey. First fighter to the scale, repping Phoenix, Arizona, Courtney Casey.
Well, Courtney Casey is an Arizona native, and she did her entire fight camp here in her home state at the MMA Lab to prepare for this one. She will have a significant height and reach advantage over Michelle Waterson, but funny enough, she didn't actually grow up with martial arts. She grew up playing soccer. So she's always been an athlete, and when she made the transition over here, she said, I don't want easy fights. She said she wants to make a statement with this fight against the karate hottie.
Well, Michelle Waterson will certainly not make that easy for her. You know, Michelle's in an interesting place right now for the first time, losing 2 in a row, but she did lose those to Rose Namajunas and to Tisha Torres, who is on a tear herself these days. So, you know, she's really putting it in good perspective, trying to use it as a learning opportunity. But my goodness, this woman, you would never know that she had anything to keep her down in her life. One of the most always positive people I've ever met.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice and respectful here.
Little
Big
height
smiles.
advantage there. A lot of hugs, a lot of smiles.
Oh, beautiful.
All right, next up in the middleweight division, Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya versus Marvin, the Italian Dream, Vettori.
Okay, Marvin, the Italian Dreams, ladies, look out. Vettori, he's coming out. He's training out of King's MMA. He said he became obsessed with mixed martial arts after watching Fedor Emelianenko. You can't blame him. The brother was putting it down for a lot of years straight. He has 10 first-round finishes.
186, the official weight for Marvin Vettori.
Most of those are submissions, 8 in a row.
Well, you know, he's going to need those submission skills because this guy is going to be a star, I'm telling you. He stole the spotlight this week, if you ask me. Absolutely incredible kickboxing background, of course, undefeated in mixed martial arts so far. Says a lot of unpredictable things. Said a couple of fun things this week, which I won't repeat on air. Okay, he actually said that he gets so hungry. He gets so horny, you can feel it in your teeth. I don't know what he means by that, but yeah, he gets so horny, you can feel it in your teeth.
Now you're permanently going to be stamped with that. It was almost like you said it.
This is going to be a good one. I can't wait for
it's going to be a very good fight.
They don't like each other.
The last style bender. I just like saying that as well.
In the UFC's welterweight division, the natural-born killer Carlos CONDIT versus Alex Cowboy Oliveira.
Well, he's stepping in on very short notice. Alex Cowboy Oliveira is facing Carlos CONDIT with about 2 weeks of a heads up, but he wasn't necessarily worried about the matchup. He said he was most worried about making weight, which he was able to do with ease this morning. He was one of the first fighters on the scale, so that certainly wasn't a problem for him. But he said this fight is really special for him because he started watching Carlos CONDIT before he even started practicing mixed martial arts.
171 for Cowboy
He said
Oliveira.
when he was a server, Carlos CONDIT was his favorite fighter. Wow.
And his opponent, the former UFC interim welterweight champion, the natural-born killer, Carlos CONDIT.
Well, I can attest to that because watching fight, and Carlos Condit used to be my favorite fighter until I had to step across the octagon from him. But I can go over his stats. He is a vet of all vets. You know what you're going to get when Carlos Condit fights.
171, the official weight for Carlos Condit.
He consistently goes out there and the fan favorite every time he goes out. You can count on him put on a great fight.
It's interesting because even on short notice, Oliveira is actually a slight favorite in this one. Should be a great fight. But Megan, I know we got to go keep you busy, so we will catch up with you in just a bit.
See you guys soon.
Look at the 2 lightweight contenders involved in tomorrow night's 5-round main event. Take a look.
If I would have never came to the UFC, I would have been unsatisfied and I never would have been happy with myself. This is the pinnacle of the sport, and if you want to be the best, then you have to fight in the UFC. And I'll prove I'm the best or fail trying.
When I was younger, I really didn't have a lot of direction. I was getting into a lot of trouble, hanging with the wrong people. I went to the school of hard knocks. I earned everything I have through fighting for it. Punch by punch, inch by inch, I've clawed and fought my way to the top of the mixed martial arts world, and I'm a few fights away from being the world champion. The pinnacle, the goal that I set out for myself as a young kid.
This kid gets stronger as the fight goes on. Oh! This dude is as tough as they come. It's non-stop forward pressure.
Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. This is a fight for which you thank the MMA gods. This has to be an absolute war. Justin Gaethje doesn't know how to fight any other way. Justin Gaethje with his ultimate highlight. Justin Gaethje, he goes in there and he throws everything he has every single time.
If you want to introduce somebody to MMA fighting, show them my fight. I promise you, your grandma will love it.
And against another warrior, against a guy like Dustin Poirier who will be there.
Oh, Coruscant's in a world of pain here. This one might be done.
That has fight of the millennium written all over.
I'm coming to beat his ass. He's coming to do the same. Fans are in for a treat. Just buckle up, enjoy the ride.
First fighter to the scale, born and raised right here in Arizona.
Well, here he
Justin,
is.
the highlight, Gaethje.
An amazing reception from the crowd for the hometown guy. The last time he was in this arena was when he competed at the state finals high school wrestling championship, which of course he won. The crowd absolutely love this guy, and rightly so. Always brings it each and every single time.
UFC lightweight contender, making his 20th UFC appearance tomorrow night, Dustin the Diamond Poirier.
Well, he better use that state championship wrestling because Dustin the Diamond Poirier, ATT teammate of mine, is one of the best strikers in the lightweight division. He's on a complete tear as of late. 12 first-round finishes, 6 wins by submission, and 11 wins by KO.
156, the official weight for Dustin Poirier.
Dustin looks in incredible shape.
A lot of significant wins. Anthony Pettis, Max Holloway, Jim Miller. He's been in the game for a very long time.
All right, first we'll talk to Justin Gaethje, Arizona. This is one of your own. Your thoughts on headlining in a building that obviously has a lot of history for you.
Yeah, I wrestled 4 times at state here, and it truly is a dream come true to come home and headline a UFC event in front of all my people.
All the best tomorrow night, sir. Thank you very much. All right, and here's Dustin Poirier, 20 UFC fights, my man, 4th UFC main event. Your expectations for what's in store for this headliner tomorrow night, sir?
We all know it's going to be a high-paced, high-action fight. Just sit back and enjoy the show, guys. Thank you for coming out.
Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Dustin Poirier, folks. Glendale, thanks for the noise today. We love you. We will see you all right back here for the fights tomorrow afternoon. Thank you all very much.